So today in class, I was talking to one of my students and I was showing what I call the spoon choke. It's basically a rear naked choke without the actual position of back mount. And one of my students, Karen, she asked me, she goes, she said she was looking on Facebook the other day and she said she saw something that said, you know, the position before submission sort of idea or concept is a myth. And I told her it's not a myth, but at the same time, we can kind of get locked into these are the only positions. So I'm going to show you guys the choke and then talk about like what we were kind of going over in class in sort of that position before submission idea. So I've got Dustin here, he's going to be on his side. And so what we were talking about in class is as we were passing guard, a lot of times what will happen is people will turtle. And their goal is to turtle up, bring their legs back in front so this way they can reclaim guard. And again, this is going to save them from being squashed in side control. Come on back. So a lot of times what I'll do is as I'm passing guard, let's turn this way just a bit, Dustin. As soon as someone begins the turn freeze, right here, as soon as my chest can connect to their back, this to me is at the point where I can choke at any point. And a lot of times I finish chokes in competitions and rolling right here. So basically what will happen is if you look over here at Dustin's neck, a lot of times when people turtle up, sometimes they tuck their chin, but sometimes they don't, because a lot of times we get locked into this thing where we feel like the right sequence is to first take the back, get your hooks, and then we go from there. And then from here, once we get the back, then we hold position 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, and then we go for the choke, right? But the thing about that sequence is that a lot of times if you do that, it makes it really hard to get the submission because, you know, it just, once they actually get into this position, I don't know if you guys have been here before, but once we lock position, it's really hard to fight this sometimes, all right? So here's the choke that we were using this morning. Basically, as soon as they begin to turtle, right here, chest to back. Instead of going for the back, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shoot through and catch right here. I do this all the time. I'll get it where I just catch and finish right here. I might throw a leg in and go from here. Even when I go for a regular back mount, as soon as I put that hook in, I will immediately shoot in for the choke even before I get both hooks in. And the idea for me is because a lot of times while they're focused on the position element of it, a lot of times the submission's not on the main thing on their mind, and a lot of times it's easy for me to get. But in class, Karen asked me, she goes, is position before submission a myth? And so I was telling her that, you know, in Jiu-Jitsu, we award the position, right? The big three mainly, side control, mount or back mount, knee on belly being kind of another one too. We award those in Jiu-Jitsu and incentivize those because if you're in a fight situation, if I was here and I was fighting this person, it's gonna be very difficult for him to deal any damage to me, right? So that's why we award it, because in a fighting aspect, it's supportive to us being in a good spot. But the thing is, we don't need to be locked into those positions only, because like right here, I'm in, even though this is not back mount, even though this is not side control, even not necessarily, this is kind of like a weird in-between position. That doesn't mean that I'm not in positionally dominant right now, because if you think about what's going on, right here, I've got chest to back. If I wanted to fight, boom, I could elbow him, I can control them. I can get controls here where he can't move. Now, I may not get points for it in a match, but I'm positionally dominant, and I still have submission options right here that I can go for. And so, you know, what I was telling her was basically, the position before submission is not necessarily a myth, because obviously when you get into better position, you will be in a better spot for submission. But that said, don't get locked into that these are the only positions that you can submit from. Submissions are all over the place. And a lot of times they might be like little mini transitional positions. Damn fly. Might be a like little transitional position like I was just showing you there. And you might be able to submit from there instead of having to go all the way to back mount or all the way to side control or whatever it might be. So position before submission is not a myth, but at the same time, don't get locked into these are the only positions you can work from for a submission. So guys, hope that's helpful to you. Just sharing an idea from class this morning. I'll talk to you guys next time.